I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, September 13th, 1993.
And still reside in St. Louis today?
Well, I'm kind of back and forth between LA and St. Louis right now. I got residencies in both, so,
Okay.
But I try to be home as often as possible because I got a family I'm taking care of as well.
And what age were you when you first moved to LA?
That's last year. And it's like I'm like in the process of trying to move there permanently without always trying to go back to St. Louis.
Ah, I
Yeah.
see. And was it strictly a music career move there?
It was both. It was personal and music career because it was time for me to both accept responsibility for me being an individual as far as a businessman, and it was time for me to really just, I guess, take a grasp on my personal life and develop more things that are going on with me outside of music.
I see. When it comes to St. Louis, is there a certain part you represent?
I'm from the north side. Like my whole family from the north side of St. Louis, like by the water tower area called the Dub. But I got family in the Cochran, and that's like the downtown area. And so it's like I kind of I want to say I gravitate more towards the Cochran side because they really like when I say they really like hold me down. They if anything arises in any type of situation where there's moral support or I need muscle support as far as man support, they always got my back. But as far as the north side by the water tower, the Dub area is like where my roots came from, and I'm happy to say I'm from there because there's not a lot of people that made it from that area. That area is like really heavily poverty stricken. It's like you don't get a lot of people to make it out of there in any type of capacity. So and I'm happy to give back as much as I can, and I do that all the time. So.
You grew up in poverty yourself?
For sure, yeah. I was an orphan. Like I was in children's home. I was I I was in St. Vincent Children's Home from the age of 6 to about 10, and then I would keep going back to St. Vincent's because I would try to go to foster homes and they would try to stay with the families, but they would always return me back to St. Vincent. And at the age of 11, I found a family, and they were the Jacksons, and I ended up getting adopted at the age of 13.
Any idea what happened to your biological parents?
Yeah, I talk to them every day. Yeah, I do. I talk to them every day. So it's crazy. Like, it takes a lot for a man to really kind of let go of things that happened to you in the past, whether they affect you emotionally or physically, because, you can get to an accident, something happened. But as a man, I just had to step up and understand that, like, I can't hold my parents against for what they did when I was at a younger age, because I'm an adult now around the same age, and I understand the trials and tribulations that come with being this age, So I can't hold that on them for the mistakes they made and the reason why they weren't able to raise me, because I just know as an individual, I'm gonna take it up on myself to make sure I can raise my kids. And I don't got kids now, but I know eventually I'm gonna start a family, and through the mistakes of other people and the errors, I learned to, kind of become a better person, and then I'm gonna pass those characteristics and morals down to my offspring. So I talk to them all the time, so I take care of them. I try to assist in any way I can. I just want to better their life, so that way they understand, like, their son is not just a success, but he's trying to actively help and change people's lives one day at a time.
When you were going through these stages here, because at first, I mean, you get into and are you taken by the state into this foster care situation, or were you voluntarily given up?
No, I was taken to the state. The situation had came to where my mother had left us alone for a few days by ourselves, and it was me and my two little brothers, and I was watching them for about 4 days. And the neighbor, one of my brothers got the attention of the neighbors, and the neighbors called DFS. And after that happened repeatedly, and one time it was like for like 6 or 7 days. After that happened, we ended up getting taken.
Now, throughout the course of time, would your parents try to take you back in so you wouldn't have to be in foster care and that sort of thing?
It was a process. So both my mom and my dad tried, like, I bet you routinely, to try to get the requirements back to get me and my brothers in custody, but obviously they were trying to grow as young adults as themselves, because my mom had me at the age of 16, and I think my dad was about 18, so they were trying to become young adults themselves and managing all that. On top of the rough environment of being in the inner city St. Louis area, it was probably crazy, but they did attempt to. They attempted to, but slowly but surely their privileges their rights got revoked. They lost their rights. My mom lost her rights first, and then I wasn't able to see her anymore. And then as a couple more foster homes down, my caseworker let me know, her name is Erica too. Love you, Miss Erica. I ended up having to meet her again too, meet her recently. And but as time went on, my father lost his rights, his privileges to us as well. And it was, as a child, you don't even know really what that means. And the only thing they tell you that stuck out to you is you won't be able to see him again. And you're not supposed to talk to him,
Oh. But you did remain in contact with them?
Not originally, but as I became a teenager, I did. I know where I'm from, I know people, and of course, since I'm in a small city with a big city mentality, with a big city structure, I ran into people who already knew me as a child, and that allowed me to get closer eventually to my father, and we started developing a relationship early in my teenage years, which led to where we at now.
Now, I know you don't have a grudge or anything of that nature like you just described, but did you at one point?
Nah, and the only reason why I didn't is because I seen what that anger did to my siblings, specifically my brother Jamar. He's in prison right now, and he's serving a 10-year bid, and he got he's on year 7 of the 10, and he has to do 8 of the 10, which was required by the state. And by me seeing his anger issues and the medicine and in and out of foster homes that he went into, and I tried my best as an individual to get him to actually understand that the anger that you got, the resentment towards the state that you got for taking away from your parents is misplaced, because it's your parents' responsibility to take care of you. It's not the state's, And me seeing his emotional struggle allowed me to kind of overcome my emotional struggle, because I ended up using music as an outlet, which allowed me to really get over it, not fast, but it allowed me to get over it without having any resentment towards the people who were involved in the situation.
How many siblings did you have total?
I had one little brother, I had 2 little brothers, and then as time went on, I found out my mom had more kids. So now I got 7 siblings besides myself now. Well, actually, I have 9 siblings beside myself now. My mom got 10 kids now. And I got a little sister named Carla, who's exactly 10 years younger than me, and she has the same birthday as me. I got a little sister named Kara. I got Lil Carl, Carlos, Syria. I got a whole plethora, Jamar, Darius. I got a plethora of siblings now, biological siblings, that we don't have the same father. Only me and my 2 little brothers have the same mother and father. And my other siblings are half siblings from her new husband, and my mom ended up getting remarried eventually,
Now, when you're taken by the state, are you separated amongst the siblings that you had at that time?
So at the time, I had just my brothers, Darius and Jamar, and they're 2 and 3 years younger than me. And I originally we were together, and the state tried to keep us together. But after seeing the anger problems that were arising in my little brother Jamar, they took it upon themselves to split us up so we could all have separate treatments and whatever our situations were. And I tried so many times to get my siblings to be with me. Like, I gave up foster homes. I would manipulate my foster homes to get them to adopt my brothers, to no avail. I've given up completely normal families that honestly want to give me an opportunity to be in their family and wanted to love me and cherish me, and I gave that up to my little brother in hopes just to get him out of St. Vincent. Because the default for children our age, well, just for our family, I guess, was we kept going back to St. Vincent Children's Home. And I wanted him to be out of there because I understood how systematic it was and how it was really destroying his childhood. It was destroying his opportunity to be a child, and it was taking his innocence. So I tried in all the power I had to get him into another foster home, and the only thing I could think of was get him into the foster home I was in, because that would be the only people I knew at the time. So I manipulated my foster homes and to get him in them homes, and it never worked out. My brother Darius, he got taken from us like maybe 2-3 years after we got into a system. He got adopted by a man named Vic, and they were further out. We were in St. Louis, Missouri, and they moved to, like, I guess, further down south in Missouri, which were a few hours down, and we didn't have contact for a few years. But as he began to be a teenager, he reached out to me as well. So we all came back around to us getting to be around each other again as we became teenagers. But it's like it never ever came together, because my brother Jamar, he like I said, he ended up going to jail for a crime. And my brother Darius right now, I mean, it pains me to say it, but he's facing a serious crime right now, a serious time right now. So just going through that as I'm 25 years old and just going through that right now and watching how it all turned out. It just breaks my heart. But so I stay. I wasn't with them in like we got taken away one by one. But eventually, as we grew up, we all tried to rebuild that bond, and that's kind of where we at with it now.
Now, I understand that in this conversation you said that you got in contact against the rules, the foster rules or the state rules, with your father because you knew people who knew them and they connected you like that. But when it came to contact with your brothers that got separated, was that, were you allowed to be in contact with your brothers after they got separated, or was that a similar situation? You had to find somebody that knew them and that's how you guys connected again?
No, it wasn't against the state rules for me to see my brothers or anything like that. But I did have to find people who knew people because I didn't know the families they went to. Because after you get separated, you get a different social worker, a caseworker assigned to you to deal with that specific case that child is going through. And that home placement process is kind of tedious as far as you have to go through the original foster home situation, and then it has to go to the adoption process. So. It wasn't illegal or anything to talk to him, but I had to find people to get in touch with him eventually, and I did. My brother Jamar he ended up getting with a family who had a similar background as the family that adopted me, and he ended up attending this Boys and Girls Club that I went to, and we ended up reconnecting, and eventually, as Darius, my youngest brother, he got older, we ended up talking more as well.
I see. When it came to be that you were part of this Jackson family, they picked you or you picked them? How does that work?
They picked me as far as, okay, so basically I was in, about to be in third grade, okay? I didn't really eat a lot at home, so I was kind of nutrient deficient. Like I would always be lightheaded and wheezy in the morning. So I would go to the nurse's office immediately when I got to school. And at that time I was with a family led by a woman named Diana Fluellen. And hey, Miss Diane, love you. She took me in, and I was going to a elementary school that was close by the house. And that my future family, the woman that adopted me was the nurse that was at that school. And I always went to her in the morning, and I guess she took an interest in a liking to me to where she started figuring out more about my home situation, and she realized that I was in foster care and that I wasn't being treated right in the home. So she got in contact with with my caseworker first, and then got in contact with the foster home that I was living in. She got in contact with her, Miss Diana, and I guess the arrangement was, since Diana already had more foster children that she was taking care of on top of her actual biological children, she allowed Miss Jackson, who was the nurse at the school I was going to take me. And from then on, we went through the customary original little foster care situation, and then we moved from that to adoption.
Do you still remain in contact with the Jacksons?
Oh yeah, they're my family, of course. They changed my life. They allowed me to focus my creative intake. They allowed me to focus into one channel and allowed me to really hone into it and master, which ended up me becoming a multi-platinum producer right now. So I didn't know that making beats was a career, or I didn't know being a producer was an actual career. I was taking piano lessons for 9 years, and I was classically trained, and I was just used to recitals, and I maybe play for weddings and church services and things like that. It wasn't until I got into college and I realized, like, okay, this can be something. I went to college in Chicago, and that's when I was around Young Chop a lot, and Chief Keef and Durk and everybody, and that allowed me to see the path that could be taken. This could be an actual career route.
Now, with all things considered, with the way the state works with children's home, foster's home, adoption, and things of that nature, all your experiences, things you've seen your brothers go through and maybe other children go through, how do you view the state's system when it comes to things of this nature?
Personally, I feel like the state has a lot of improvement to do with the foster system and the adoption system processes in general. I feel like it should be a lot more hands-on, because I've seen so many travesties and I've seen so many so many passionate children get consumed by the system, and then their innocence gets taken away in some way, and they're just not the same. The early stages of a child turning from adolescence to young adult, is very crucial to be more hands-on. They need that nourishment and that guidance to help define them. Those are that adolescent stage is where the morals are starting to be drawn and starting to actually be learned and taken in. It's not until you get a little older that it starts to realize that you retain it and that becomes a part of who you are. So the system it's almost like they places you, they're not really screening the families. It's a class you take and then you're able to have foster kids, And it's that process between foster care and adoption that can be really rough. And all the experiences that a child it all depends on the foundation that their family that the child is in. So it's a really messy situation, and I pray to God that legislation changes for the kids that are in the foster system, because it could be anything from a life-changing situation in a good way to a detrimental, harmful situation in a bad way, depending on the environment and foundation of the family itself. It's crazy.
When it comes to being one of the kids that's experienced this state system, do you think you were one of the lucky ones?
Blessed is the answer. I wouldn't even say I'm lucky. The terminology had to be changed, because luck is only a part of it. Like, I have to be actually blessed to be able to make it out this situation, because you don't know where you're going to end up. As a child, you have no control over where you end up. Even if you say you don't like somewhere, if it's your last option, you're going to stay there. Even if you say you do like somewhere, if that family doesn't like you and they want to keep you, you'll go somewhere else. So you don't have any say-so as far as what happens to you when you're in the system. So honestly, I feel like I'm blessed to be where I'm at, because I could be in jail, dead, anything. You never know what could happen, but thank God that I was blessed enough to really be taken in by a God-fearing family that taught me the right morals to transform me into a God-fearing adult.
And because you were a product of the system here in some shape, form, or fashion, and you've seen this process with your own eyes and gone through it and seen others go through it, would you ever, I know you don't have any kids currently, but would you ever consider adopting someone yourself?
I have, but not until recently, until I realized that I can actually do it. I've really been thinking, like, would I want my own biological children? Of course, but at the same time, I feel like I would be selfish as an individual who made it out of the situation to not go back and help someone else personally on a hands-on basis, day-to-day basis, to give back in that way, because I feel like someone did that for me, and it'd only be right for me to keep the chain going.
Now, growing up financially, you did experience poverty. And I know when it comes to America, people get placed into financial classes, poverty, lower middle class, upper middle class, rich. Were you ever able, as you were growing up, to experience a higher level of financial?
For sure. So
aside from poverty?
Yeah, because different foster homes, like I said, they would have different foundations, and that would be, different classes of people you would run into. And I had financially well-off foster parents as well as struggling foster parents who were using EBT. I had foster parents who was using the money, who was surviving off the money they were getting from the state, from having multiple foster kids, all the way to people who genuinely just wanted to change a child's life because of the situation they were in. You really don't know where you'll end up, and it's most likely that you're gonna go through a lot of different financial classes, just shuffling through the homes. So I personally, I've seen the entire spectrum. I know what to expect from. You wouldn't know what to expect, but I learned what to expect from different classes and understanding how families work.
That one time when you were, you weren't eating, you were like malnourished or malnutritioned, however the phrase there. Was that a time when you were was that a time you were in poverty conditions and didn't have enough food, or you just chose not to eat for whatever reason?
It was, It was kind of a mixture of both. Because of me not being comfortable in the setting that I was in, it made me hard to really feel comfortable enough to have a meal with people, trusting people who cook the food, all that type of things. Because I've gone through so many situations where the food wouldn't be cooked and I'd be forced to eat it, or I wouldn't have anything else to eat. I've gone through situations where I wish sandwiches, which is I had some meat sandwich. It would be everything on the bread but meat. So like I understand like it took me a long time to be able to trust people, and that's all part of the trust process. So during that time, it was really because of the financial situation of both the the home I was in, as well as my mental state. That all had a part to play in me being malnourished and me really not having the proper nutrition that was required as a growing adolescent.
Because you've seen all different types of financial spectrums, when it comes to experiencing poverty more specifically, what did that teach you? What did you learn from living in that environment?
I think about it every day. I spent most of my life in that situation, so I really cherish the dollar. Like, I cherish what it does is it teaches me responsibility at an early age. Well, I learned not to procrastinate because I learned procrastination makes the situation worse. I learned to watch what I spend and to watch how much I spend in a certain amount of time. I learned to be proactive on situations as far as taking care of your business, so that way you wouldn't have to be reactive to something. I learned the value and how far a dollar can go, because I understand that when you have nothing, $10 can be $100. So, I mean, it taught me financial responsibility. It taught me to be self-reliant, and then it taught me to make a lot out of little. It taught me to appreciate life in general.
Let's say somebody's watching this interview, listening to your story, and of course circumstances could be different for everybody, but let's say somebody's living in poverty right now. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you would say to this person watching?
Don't give up. It's possible. Whatever your dreams and aspiration is, you have to make your reality into that. Because your resources are limited, it doesn't mean your mind is limited. You understand? So you have to understand that the law of attraction is real, and that what you think really is what you become. You've ever heard the phrase, you are what you eat? Well, you are what you think, and it's real. I learned through life that nothing comes to a sleeper but a dream, right? But the funny thing about a dream is that it'll plant the seed for reality. Dreams plant seeds for reality that you reap through action. So only thing I could tell somebody who's in that type of situation is to don't quit, and that anything is possible through action plus thought. If listen, I didn't even have the internet growing up, and I wish I did. Like, now that you have the internet, it's so accessible in so many different ways, form and factor. Anything that you could think of, you can look it up and learn. You don't need school to learn something. You need school for literally the verification of the process. The information can be learned in so many different ways, but the verification and certification can only be gotten a few of them. So if you were in poverty right now and you're thinking like, well, if I don't got no money, so how can I do this? Whatever you're trying to achieve, you need to look at different ways of approaching it. So first of all, you have to change your mentality. You need to stop looking at it as, and I understand that in poverty, it's hard to look at it as a win, but an if, man, if I had this, man, if I just had that, you have to change that from a win to when I get this to when I get that, because you have to understand that anything is possible. You're constraining yourself by dwelling on the fact that you don't feel like it's possible to even achieve. So the law of attraction is real, and anybody who's listening to me right now watching this, just understand that. Look up the law of attraction and really make that a part of who you are, because you really are what you think. And that's what I'll tell somebody.
Now, growing up in that environment for most of the time, the poverty conditions, did you seek making money early in life?
Yeah, of course. So I'm from St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Missouri is a show me state. And I'm from St. Louis, where literally people will make a hustle out of anything. because it's a lot of poverty in St. Louis. You don't have a lot of opportunity because it's not a very vast business infrastructure that allow opportunity for jobs. So, I mean, after I started to become more proficient at playing the piano, I understood that it was money to be made, but I still looked at it as a way for me to advance my craft. Even playing at an event, it taught me how to deal with pressure. You know what I'm saying? It taught me how to kind of really improve my perfection and timing under vast pressure. It could be someone singing along to it, and they're depending on your guide, all the way down to you leading something or a song, and they're depending on your timing. You understand? So, this it. I got small little jobs like playing for my school, playing for my church, but it always went back into investing in myself. It would be buying me new clothes. It would be buying me material. It would be buying me song books. It would be paying for my lessons. All this went back into investing into myself to make me become the best that I can be as an individual. So, yeah.
When it came to jobs, did you ever have one?
Yeah, I had my entire life. I never had a job as an adult, but I did have a job as a teenager. I worked at the Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri as I don't know, like what do you call them people? Like a vendor who be like peanuts, all that type of like I did that.
Okay.
That was in high school, crazy. And then right at the end of high school, I was working at Cricket, the cellular phone service spot. And then I went to college and I tried to go back to Cricket during college, during break. And that's when I realized, like, I didn't want to do this type of job, that I really wanted to pursue music. And it was through I just had Chop in my ear every day. I had his brother, Johnny Make Cash, in his ear every day. I had his mom in my ear every day. Just people consistently reminded me, like, I can make this a real career path, but I have to take that jump to understand that sometimes the risk is worth the reward.
How did you meet Chop?
I met Young Chop through his brother, Johnny Make Cash. I've been knowing Young Chop since 2012, like the end of 2012, the beginning of 2013. I remember I started meeting up with him so I was in college for the 2011-12 year, and I met Chop, and then I knew he was a producer, but we were using the same mentor. His name was Benjamin Funkman in Chicago. And he told me, I have the hottest young producer in the Midwest. He's going to be the next Lex Luger. Like, he was really on it. And this African man was our mentor. And eventually I started hanging around Chop more directly and learning, like, okay, we're on to something. And hanging around Keef and start seeing the development of, I guess, the drill scene and understanding, okay, this can go somewhere. And basically, Johnny May told his brother, like, yo, man, you need to fuck with dude. Like, bro is the truth. And Chop saw in me what I didn't even see in myself yet. He knew I would end up becoming me, and I didn't think I was gonna I just knew I was making beats. And I started making a lot of beats with Young Chop, and that turned into him developing a brand. And then the Young Chop brand, I started making beats for him, and we were shopping beats around. And eventually, I ended up linking with Chief Keef, and Chief Keef, I remember one time I was at his house, and he was like, I asked him to take a picture for me. And he took a picture for me on my Instagram, and when he handed me my phone back, he changed my username from my old username, Beat Killer Fresh, to ChopSquad DJ. And that's been my name since. And so, yeah, so Chief Keef created the name ChopSquad DJ. And me and Young Chop created ChopSquad. It was just originally a production group, but we were trying to make it a label by incorporating his label ATMG. So basically, we turned the label into a production group and a production group into a lifestyle, And I can't lie to you, man. Like, I can't thank Johnny Make Cash, Young Chop, and Chief Keef enough for the development. The groundwork they laid for production and development I made from watching these people go through their trial and errors allowed me to become the person I am today. So, like, I got nothing but the utmost respect for all three of them people, like, in every type of way imaginable. Like, I honestly owe these people my life, and I'm gonna keep their shit going for the rest of my life, I promise you. I'm gonna continue to keep whatever they got going, always support it, and try to move forward what they got going on to the next level as long as I live. So, I never thought that, like, I don't know, I never thought that music was a job. I just thought it was a hobby that people enjoyed. I didn't understand the business part of it until the last few years, where I understood that having a critical business, a solid business foundation was the key to success in the long end. And this all started with Johnny Make Cash and Young Chop.
Now, for chronological purposes, when you actually link up with Chop, was this before the success of Chief Keef's I Don't Like?
Yeah, right before, yeah. And he really started rocking with me heavy, like when he became a solidified producer in the game. And then he started telling me like, yo, you can just, like his brother was telling me like, you can really go crazy, shorty. Like you can make this nigga beats and you can do your thing. Like we can do this together as a family. And it was me, Young Chop, and Johnny Make Cash all making beats for the brand under Young Chop. And you know, as more artists started reaching out to him, he started going overseas, working with Kanye, French Montana, Ace Hood, Meek Mill, just different people, Diddy. We started networking and creating our own network inside of that, to which I started developing personal relationships. So while he was focusing on Chief Keef, I was focusing on Lil Durk. And Durk was my main focus. Like, I knew in 2013 Durk was gonna be who he is now. Because I understood, like, there has to be, like, Chicago has to have something after drill. You understand? And I understood that soul that he represented, it was gonna be the next thing. Using those melodies was the way out the trenches for real.
How did you meet Johnny at first?
I met Johnny Make Cash. I heard, well, how did I meet him or how did I hear about him?
How'd you guys link up?
Oh, well, we linked up through Facebook in 2012 through, like I said, Benjamin Funkman was the mentor for both of them, for Johnny Make Cash and Young Chop. Young Chop and Johnny Make Cash are brothers. They're blood brothers. So basically, Benjamin Funkman told me I really, like, he had faith in Johnny Make Cash, and Johnny Make Cash is one of the most incredible writers, producers, artists I ever met in my life. He basically told me I need to link up with him and I can create some amazing work with him. And then basically the foundation of what I know how to do with Durk right now was laid through the trial and error that me and Johnny Make Cash went through. And we created that sound through, okay, it has to be hard hitting still, but it has to have soul and it has to be touching. And that's the kind of the approach we had and created that formula inside of that we got right now that you got Durk sound in, which is the sound, the whole industry that ran off with that song. Like it's hard, like, and I tell people all the time, like, if you go back to 2013 and 12 and 13, if you go back, you'll see that there was no, like, I didn't understand that my skill was the piano, and I was doing trial and error, so I was making all type of beats, and it wasn't really artist, they weren't artist-centered, they were like type, so it'd be like ATL type beat, down south type beat, East Coast type beat, West Coast type beat, and then I realized, like, okay, I have to figure out how to incorporate trap in the piano. And then after I figured out how to do that around Love Song for the Streets too, the whole scene changed. Zaytoven beats, at first Zaytoven beats was the only type of beat you would hear the piano and a trap beat. And then after I figured out how to incorporate my music into trap beats, now you got a whole bunch of piano type beats. You got a whole bunch of piano and trap beats. So I help the industry move forward and get away from just one type of sound, because inside of every sound there's sub-genres. Inside of every sub-genre there are broken down categories of all different types of skills that are focused on the different types of beats. So I understand that my forte was the piano, and all I had to do was create a sound outside of something that already exists. And I took the trap sound and added pianos, and that's how you got NBA YoungBoy type beats and Quando Rondos and YK, what's his name, Osiris, and you got a whole bunch of new plethora of artists that's taking advantage from the piano trap beat foundation that I had sat there and developed from me trying to be different from Zaytoven.
Was Zaytoven an influence for you?
Yeah, of course. I just didn't want to make Zaytoven type beats. Like, I understood that I had to become an individual. And like, I was inspired heavily by Zaytoven as far as, like, I knew that piano was my forte, but I would never become an individual if I couldn't have a sound outside of his sound. So I understood that I would have to start from the ground up, work on piano riffs, and then kind of incorporate the trap sound inside of it. And it ended up working. Now it's like it's a whole new genre inside of trap music now. Like the piano soul type beats. Like, it's a whole, at first you either had like drill or trap, that was it. And that's how it was from like 2010 to 2000 and like, I want to say 14, really. And then you see soul start going and incorporating more into trap, and it start being more about melodies instead of just all the bass.
So out of this circle of Johnny Maycash, Young Chop, and Benjamin Funkman, right? That's his name? You met Benjamin first, I would assume here.
Yeah.
And then when it came, then he tells you about Johnny and Chop.
Yeah.
And then you reach out to Johnny, or Johnny reaches out to you on
Johnny
Facebook?
reached out to me already, but I didn't know. And then when he told me his name, you know how you go to someone's name and then you go to message him, and then he inboxed me like, send me some beats. And so then I start, cause I guess I had told him to DM me a long time ago, but I didn't know who he was. I just heard a song of his that was like cracking on YouTube. And then I started kind of building that relationship, and that's what got me to linking with them directly and sleeping on the floor and develop a relationship with his mom and just growing together as a family, you know?
You said Benjamin, you refer to him as a mentor. In what way was he a mentor for you specifically?
He helped me understand that nothing can be done by self. That inspirations and influences are okay. He helped bring people together. He helped bring people together that wouldn't necessarily be working together, and that's how Young Chop and I even started working together, because we both come from inner city, Midwest cities, but our approach of it was different. Like, I was just getting used to being out here by myself with nobody else and going to school, and Chop was starting to learn how to be by himself and take care of his family as an individual.
What does DJ stand for?
It's my name. So DJ is Daryl Jackson. That's my government name.
And when Chief Keef made that screen name for you, you liked the ring of it and the sound of it instantly, or you had to?
I liked it. I liked it. Like at first, I looked at it like, what the hell? But then I was like, okay, I'm an individual now. Because at first, I was afraid of becoming an individual. I was cool with being like a ghost producer and making someone else's beats and letting them get the credit as long as I was getting the money for it. But I understood that the power in the brand is way more important than the power of dollar.
Have you ever tried to physically DJ as a disc jockey?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So that's really funny, because when I first came out as ChopSquad DJ, people thought like I was DJ. So people would tell me they want me to come do shows for DJ, and I would do it, even though I never did it before. And I would teach myself to do it by trial and error, by going through different shows, New York, Baltimore, Houston, Dallas, San Diego. I was going a lot of places DJing shows, and I would just throw in my popular songs that I produced, and eventually they got I was a producer. They got it, because I started having more popular records and prominent records as a producer.
So Chief Keef inadvertently created another hustle for you.
Yeah, he did. He didn't even, like, man, I'm telling you, I didn't know any of this. Like, I'm telling you, my name on there was Beat Killer Fresh on Instagram, and that's why I was just like a beat maker. I didn't even know about producing. Like, producing is more just making a beat. It's helping create an actual record. So he created a life for me, I'm telling you. Like, without that, I would have still been trying to figure out an identity, because I would still be inside of the umbrella of Young Chop as an entity, not as an individual.
At Cricket, that job you had mentioned, one of the few jobs you had, I don't think you specified what your role was with that company.
Oh, so everybody kind of had the same role. You would basically just help activate the phones. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were any of those jobs that you had tough?
Nah. Like, are you like physically demanding?
Yeah.
The Busch Stadium job, going up and down bleachers every day with a big ass thing of popcorn and lemonades on you, screaming out lemonade and popcorn. But other than that, no, it wasn't hard at all.
Would you lose your voice doing that?
All the time. I would come to school and had to lie about what I was doing. That was embarrassing, man. I would leave school and go right to the game and go to work. Like, man, but people caught on what I was doing, because they'll see me. I'll have to switch. It's been times where I'll be right after school and then I'll be switching to my uniform and go head out the front door to school, and people see me in the Busch Stadium uniform. But it was cool in my school to have a job, so, you know.
What was embarrassing about that particular job?
The fact that I had a bright yellow shirt on and I was walking around, peanuts, 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 and people would go to the games for fun, and I'd be sitting there sweating buckets trying to sell them some peanuts.
Do you, I don't know how that job works, but do you get an incentive for selling maybe more peanuts or whatever it is than the next person selling it at
You get an incentive for selling out of each bucket. Like if you sell out your bucket, you'll get a bonus basically.
I see. How did you fare amongst the other the sellers?
Oh, I was horrible. Garbage. Like literally, I was garbaggio. Yeah, I was garbage. But it was a job. Like what, man? I wasn't supposed to be doing that shit, bro. I just knew I needed to get some money by myself. And I mean, I didn't mind, like I had no ego. I was as humble as you can be because I cared about me progressing as an individual, paying for my tuition, being able to wear clothes outside of my uniform, being able to be a regular teenager.
What led you to these jobs?
I just told you. That's what led me there. I wanted to be able to wear school's clothes outside of my uniform.
Well, I meant like, what led you to? I mean, because there's so many different jobs. I mean, you could have chosen to do.
Okay, right. You mean why did I pick those jobs? Over
yeah, I guess that would be the better form of questioning. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I picked those jobs. Okay, so the cricket job came because I knew one of my friends who made beats. Also, his name was K Cash. His real name Kevin. He worked at cricket and he told me he'd give me a job there, and he did immediately. The same thing came from the Busch Stadium job when I was in high school, like, cause I was working in cricket like senior year, going into my freshman year of college, and I was working at Busch Stadium my junior and into my senior year, and I actually worked there from my sophomore to my senior year. I think I worked there 3 seasons, and I would try to call off as often as possible. But Kevin, he's the reason I worked at cricket. And then I knew another person who was in my classroom who worked at Busch Stadium, and they helped me get the job. They told me just come to the orientation and where to apply it.
Because that's not a typical job one chooses
No.
when you're in school.
No.
So I was just curious how that came
I didn't even listen. If it was a job, if it equaled money, I was there.
Now, were any of those jobs dangerous?
Oh, no. Hell no. Oh, yeah? Well, never mind. Change that. That cricket job was goddamn me. Yeah, that cricket job, it was in the hood, so like you never know who will walk in there. So.
But while you were working there, it never got robbed or anything of that nature, did it?
Nope, but it did when I left. I heard like, well, no, I don't think that store I worked at did, but the sister stores was so bad it had bulletproof glass and you had to do transactions through bulletproof glass. It got so bad. Yeah, they got robbed so many times. I don't even think they had real phones on display anymore.
Now, any crazy stories dealing with any of those jobs that you had? Anything that happened out of the norm?
Yeah, but it wasn't to the future where I realized it. Like people would tell me, didn't you used to work at cricket? And I'm ChopSquad DJ now, by the way. And they'd be like, didn't you used to work at cricket? And I'd be like, yeah, that was me.
You quit these jobs? Or got fired?
I quit cricket. No. I quit Busch Stadium because I had to go to college and I got fired from cricket.
Because?
I wasn't doing my job right. Like I didn't care for real. Like I was bullshitting. I came back late from breaks. I did all type of dumb shit. I didn't care. I think I gave somebody a free phone and everything.
A chick?
No, it was like somebody I knew. Oh, it was, no, it wasn't. Hell no, I'm not gonna lie like that. No, it was my boys.
Oh, okay. Now, when it comes to these jobs that you had, if you could, I know you can't own a stadium, but would you ever consider maybe owning a cricket or a cell phone place?
I would definitely be interested in owning a retail spot. Not necessarily a cell phone spot.
Okay.
But a form of retail for sure.
Now, you had a couple jobs, and obviously you had a hustle going on with the music.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I didn't have that hustle at the same time as that job. I was still learning how to be a producer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't start actually being a full-time producer until I was making beats for Young Chop.
So jobs first, then the music hustle after.
Yeah.
Did you ever try street activity?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever try street activity? Did you ever try a route or a path in street activity?
So I'm gonna stitch on myself?